أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. The most important relationship is between children and their parents. That is because according to this world, we have received our existence from our parents. We have come into existence because of our parents. And this is the medium that Allah has chosen to give us life. And you look at different verses in the Quran, how much stress has been given on parents. So we're going to go into family ethics now, and this is a part of social ethics. And from family ethics, the most important, we were going to divide it into parents, and then we'll divide it into spouse and spouse relationship. So let's go and read some of the verses in the Holy Quran. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حُسْنًا. And we have enjoined on man goodness to his parents. وَإِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ لِتُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ فَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. And if they strive with you that you should not associate others with me, of which you have no knowledge, then do not obey them. Unto me is your return, and I will inform you of what you are doing. So therefore, in these verses in the Quran, we see that there's a comparison between, and there is a maybe you could say an equal in rank almost, between parents and also between shirk and not committing polytheism. This is the level that Allah, when you look at ethics in the Quran, you see that Allah has raised the ranks of parents, walidayya, into, in other verses we'll read too, not committing polytheism. And do not, but there's a limit though, do not obey them when it comes to polytheism, when it comes to choosing the wrong religion. You have to obey them. Basically, you have to be kind to them. But in this case, if they command you to do what is not allowed. Then we see more interesting, more about the mother in the Quran and also in the hadith. In the hadith, more emphasis on the mother. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتْهُ كُرْهًا. So, and we have enjoined on men doing of good to his parents, with trouble did his mother bear him, and with trouble did she bring him forth. So all of us were little infants, and nights that the mother was not sleeping and was taking care of you, and sometimes the dad was sleeping. But the mother, I'm not saying that the mother has to do this, but I mean, at least when it comes to providing milk and breastfeeding children, that's the role of the mother. So therefore, we see that in these verses that the mother is actually more specified. And then it continues, and weaning of him 30 months. So we see that there's more emphasis on the hadith, and also there's more emphasis in the Quran about the mother. So we look at these obligations that we have. Some of the verses in the Quran talk about qada. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. So qada, the author here talks about, and we have decreed. He says that amr, a command, and other forms of Arabic do not equal qada. When you talk about qada, a decree, that is the highest form of obligation. So, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ. And your Lord has decreed that you do not worship except Him. So this is the part of divine ethics. But then it's not just, Islam is not only limited to the divine. إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And to parents, good treatment. So qada is used. here for separating ourselves from worship of God, others than God, and separating ourselves from ill treatment or to treat our parents well. So we see other verses in the Quran that talk about the mother specifically, and in general about being kind to our parents. Brothers and sisters, if from my experience, if you just want to put it in a nutshell, and if you're not going to listen to the rest of the speech, you're going to notice this, that being kind to the parents, it opens up the doors of the dunya, it opens up the doors of the akhirah. We're going to read in the hadith that if somebody gets to a level that they become aq, that means the parents are not satisfied with them whatsoever. And they're like, forget them. They're not my kid anymore, right? They say, do whatever you want, and the hadith says, do whatever you want. Nothing's going to have an effect on you. So we see that a lot of times we pay attention to ziyarat, we pay attention to reading the Quran, we pay a lot of attention to acts of worship. But you can imagine your parents as being a place of ziyarah, a face that when you look at, you get the reward of, say, Hajj, for example, looking at them. And if you look at them multiple times, you get the reward of Hajj. And those that their parents have passed away, it does not mean that that relationship is gone. Okay, now they passed away, that's it. You should still remember them when it comes to doing good deeds for them. A lot of times you can make up that relationship that you had with them. That relationship that if it was torn at times after they pass away, you could do many good things for them. Brothers and sisters, whenever you do something good, put your parents as a reward for it. Especially those that have passed away, their parents. You can, whenever you want to help somebody out, you want to give charity. When it's the nights of Friday, you're the only ones. Inshallah, all of you, your parents will be living for a long time. But for those that don't have parents, or they're missing, or some of their parents, their father or mother has passed away, remember that it's not only limited to this world. When they pass away, also you're expected to be kind to them. Look at Prophet Yahya alayhi salam in the Quran. Ya Yahya, khudh al-kitab biquwwa. Oh John, take the scripture with determination. Take the scripture with strength. وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْحُكْمَ صَبِيًّا. And we gave judgment while yet he was a boy. وَحَنَانًا مِنْ لَدُنَّا وَزَكَاةً وَكَانَ تَقِيًّا وَبَرًّا بِوَالِدَيْهِ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ جَبَّارًا عَصِيًّا. And dutiful to his parents, and he was not a disobedient tyrant. So this is one of the, when Allah talks about Prophet Yahya, he says وَبَرًّا, maybe I've said birra, and he's dutiful to his parents. This is the explanation of Prophet Yahya alayhi salam. Or you could see Prophet Isa alayhi salam. وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُ وَأَوْصَانِي بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ مَا دُمْتَ حَيًّا. And he made me blessed wherever I am, and it has enjoined upon me prayer and zakat as long as I remain alive. وَبَرًّا بِوَالِدَتِي. And made me dutiful to my mother, because he did not have a father. So it says, وَالِدَتِي, to my mother. وَلَمْ يَجْعَلَنِي جَبَّارًا شَقِيًّا. And he has not made me a wretched tyrant. So you see dhulm to people, how bad it is, but you see how good it is to be dutiful to your mother. So this, in a nutshell, is from verses of the Quran, that we have many verses that equate, basically we can say, being in the same sentence, polytheism, staying away from polytheism, and being respectful and doing good and acting kind to our parents. And then now let's look at the hadith. What did the hadith say about parents? We look at, first of all, some of the hadith from Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, from his supplication to his parents. O Allah, make me fear them like one's fear of a tyrant king, and that I do good to them like the goodliness of a kind mother. So make me them fear them, make me have awe, make them have presence, such a way that I'm not disrespectful to them. And the hadith says, don't call them by their first names. Be respectful to them. Be very respectful to them. Don't be be fearful of them. If just like if you're a tyrant king, you're careful when you speak to them. And then it says, and then I do good to them, like the goodness of a kind mother, and make my obedience to my parents and my kindness to them sweeter for my eyes than sleepy eyes. Make it sweet for me. And it is sweet. Being kind to your parents, spending time with them, being close with them. It is very sweet. And cooler for my breast than the drink of a thirsty person, so that I put their desire ahead of mine. Let be kind to them. A lot of people, they are not close with their parents. It's important to have a relationship, and slowly we should correct ourselves, this kind of relationship that we have with them. Believe me, if you approach them, if you're kind to them, and many people, they've changed their relationship with their parents, they made it for the better. Maybe at one period of time, they weren't good. Then it becomes better. Many of us, even if we became religious and we're from a non-religious family or we're converts, at times, yes, our parents gave us a tough time, but then later on they get used to it, and then it's a good time now to approach them again. And you will see the benefits in the dunya and akhirat. Your dunya will become beautiful. It's the experience of our lifetime, and from my teacher, Shaykh Ahmad al-Mushtaidi, over and over and over, he gave us so many stories. But one of them is this. You've heard of Shaykh Abbas Qumi. Shaykh Abbas Qumi is a scholar that lived 60 years ago. He compiled Mafatihul Jannah. And that book is a book of dua. Most places we do ziyarat, we carry a Shaykh Abbas Qumi with us, this compilation. He has written other books and they've been translated. Once his father started giving him a tough time, like I do to my kid, even though he's 4 years old. Sometimes you give them a tough time. And he was saying, why don't you go and study with this scholar? Why don't you go and study with him? And that scholar was teaching from the book that Shaykh Abbas Qumi had written. He had written that book, and his father didn't know. He was instructing him to go and study with this Shaykh and study this book. And then he said to his father, Chashm, which in Farsi means, yes, my eyes, yes. And he went, and he didn't let his father know that he was the author of that book, And when some of the Marajah, I believe it was Ayatollah al-Uzma Khoi, he came to Qom, the entire crowd came for him. Big scholar from Najaf is coming to visit Qom. And the people come all the way, they visit to Ayatollah Khoi, then they see the entire crowd stop, and then they see that Ayatollah Khoi brings forward this old person, which was his father, and his father goes through, and then Ayatollah Khoi and the crowd goes. And that is how, Ayatollah Khoi became Ayatollah Khoi, with respect that they had for their parents. Imam Bagher says there are 3 things in which Allah has not given anyone permission to violate. Returning a trust. You cannot, if someone gives you a trust, you cannot violate this trust. Either they're righteous or corrupt. It doesn't matter. You cannot violate a trust. 2, fulfilling a promise given to both the righteous and corrupt. If you make a promise, an ahd, you cannot go against this ahd, this promise. And 3, obedience to the parents, whether they are righteous or corrupt. It doesn't matter. These 3 categories of people, or actions, trust, fulfilling a promise, and obedience to their parents. It doesn't matter if they're righteous or corrupt. You have to be kind to them. You have to be good to them. Indeed, Allah has commanded to thank the Lord and the parents. So he who is not thankful to his parents is not thankful to Allah. Imam Rida, this hadith. A person that is not thankful to his parents is not thankful to Allah. Let's read this from this hadith. And the right of your father is that you should know that he is your root and you are his branch. I believe this is from Huquq of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. And without him you would not be. So just like the author was mentioning, sometimes when it comes to societal ethics, we have needs. That's why we have friends, we have brothers, we have sisters in Islam, and we have emotional needs, we have physical needs, we have different types of needs. But parents, Our need was that they gave us existence. Allah wanted us to be through them, and without Him you would not be. Whenever you see anything in yourself which pleases you, you should know that your Father is the root of its blessings upon you. So anything that pleases you, remember this is from your Father. So praise God and thank Him in recognition of that, and there is no power but in God. So this is a good majlis tonight that you can have your children listen to if you want them to follow you. Let's talk about the mother now. Again, more emphasis on the mother, more emphasis from Imam Sajjad, Risalatul Huquq. Then the mother, then the right of your mother is that you should know that she carried you where no one carries anyone, and she fed you with the fruit of her heart. She carried you when no one carries anyone else. You're especially when you're 8 months, 9 months, you're heavy. Try carrying a big, watermelon wherever you go. You're heavy. You're very heavy. The back is hurting. She cannot walk properly. She was carrying you everywhere, and she fed you with the fruit of her heart, that which no one feeds anyone. MashaAllah, Imam Sajjad, how beautiful Ali ibn Hussein alayhi salam talks about the mother here. Very beautiful. She fed you from the fruit of her heart, where no one else feeds you. She fed you from herself. No one else feeds you from themselves. And that nutrition and those vitamins and everything that you get it's coming out from your mother, coming to you. And she protected you with her hearing and sight, and her hands and legs, and her hair and skin, and all her other organs. She was protecting you. Right? If something would be endangering you, she would take that danger away from you. She was highly delighted to do so, and she did it with love. She was happy and eager, enduring the harm and the pains and the heaviness and the grief until the mighty hand expelled you out of her and delivered you out to the earth. And then we came out and we were born. Remember that piece of poetry, it's in Persian, that when you were born, everyone was laughing and you were crying. So you were crying, but everyone was laughing. It says, oh friend, live a life that when you die, you are laughing and everyone is crying. That everyone misses you and you are laughing, you're happy because you see heaven and you see the actions that you did. She did not care if she went hungry as long as you ate. This is how mothers are. She did not care for you if you went hungry. She did not care if she went hungry as long as you ate, and if she was naked as long as you were clothed. She was caring for you. You're her little baby. And if she was thirsty as long as you drank, and if she was in the sun as long as you were in the shade, and if she was miserable as long as you were happy, and if she was deprived of sleeping as long as you were resting. This is mother. The fathers are sleeping and snoring away, and the mothers are sleepless for a few years until that child learns how to sleep. And her abdomen was your abode, and her lap was your seat. How beautiful Imam Sajjad, Ali ibn Hussein. I wish that the entire world, you could share this with the entire world. And your abdomen was your abode. This was your home. And her lap was your seat. And her breast was your supply of drink. And her soul was your fort. She protected you from the heat and the cold of this world. Then you should thank her for all that. You shall not be able to show her gratitude unless through God's help and His granting you success. So you see in this, the rest of this, that Allah will give us tawfiq to be able to thank them. And so we have children that are good and their parents really get happy with them. And they take care of them. Either they put a portion away. Some of the verses of the Quran talk about giving them money. And this was before the verse of inheritance came. To do wasiyat and to give them a portion of your money, your parents, to protect them. And we said it is wajib to give them, take care of them financially if needed, take care of them emotionally if needed. And higher than this, we have hadith that even say in the hadith, it says that from the Prophet of Islam, ما حق الوالد قال أن تطيعه ما عاش. So, what is the right of the father? And it says, to obey him as long as you're living. That's the right of the father. Then it talks about what is in the hadith, وَمَا حَقُّ الْوَالِدَةِ, what is the right of the mother? فَقَالَ هَيْهَاتَ هَيْهَاتَ. It's far it be, like you will never understand. Far it be, you will never understand. Father, in the hadith, Rasulullah says to obey as long as you're alive. Then the mother, the Rasulullah says, هَيْهَاتَ هَيْهَاتَ لَوْ أَنَّهُ عَدَدَ رَمْلِ عَالِجٍ وَقَطْرِ الْمَطَرِ أَيَّامَ الدُّنْيَا قَامَ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ مَا عَدَلَ ذَلِكَ يَوْمَ حَمَلَتْهُ فِي بَطْنِهَا. If the number of pebbles and piles and the number of raindrops were days, and you stood awake between her arms, it would not equal to one day that she carried you in her stomach. So imagine how many pebbles we have, how many raindrops that we have in this world, around your arm, and then you understand that is not equal to just one day that she carried you in her stomach. So we have these hadith that also show us, do not ever think that that you have been complete, you have been the perfect son. We're all incomplete, especially when it comes to ethics. There's a story, it's attributed to Imam Sadiq. A person was carrying his mom in tawaf, you know how hard it is to carry a person that cannot stand. A person was carrying his mom in tawaf and says, this is my mom, I wash her, I comb her, I've brought her here, and I help her. And then says, I think for 15 years. And then the Imam mentions, if you serve her in this way, just one of her cries that when she gave birth to you would not equate. This 15 years of taking care of her, not equate to one of the cries that she gave during your birth. So do not think that you're carrying her, basically, you're doing tawaf, helping her in tawaf, that you're doing anything. All of this is equal to just the one moment that she was taking care of you. So our advice to my fellow friends and that we see is to be very careful of our duties to our parents, and especially when it comes to wanting the dunya, separating ourselves from disrespect of the parents, and in general to, inshallah, to live a life that we are complete, we're not like those that have just focused on one aspect of Islam. We have societal duties. We have duties to the parents. And at the end, I'm going to this is what I forgot. I'm going to mention some hadith about the duties of the child. So not only do the parents have duties, but also parents have these duties to their children. So what are the rights of the children? Because we're talking about the family. Let's see if this can, let me stop sharing here. So we have rights for the child. One is choosing a good name. The family, the child, and when it comes to ethics in the Quran, in the Hadith, the best names are the names of the holy prophets, the infallibles, naming them. So it's important to give them a new name. To offer a sacrifice for the newborn. When a newborn is done, the parents should do aqiqah. This is some of the rights that the child has. And it's highly recommended to do aqiqah, sacrifice, and there's a certain way for the children. This was salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. And so the rights of the infant, we're going to, the rights of education and more responsibilities that we have. So this loads up. So teaching your child when they're young. Again, this is the rights. Order your children to seek knowledge. We have from Imam Ali. Order your children to seek knowledge. He who does not learn in his young age will not advance in his adult age, Imam Ali says. Teach them when they're young. Learning at a young age is like engraving on a stone. And the parable of he who learns in his adult age is like one who writes on water. Okay? So at a young age, teaching them. The value of upbringing them. From Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, the best thing that fathers could leave for their children as inheritance is manners. Not wealth, for wealth perishes, but manners remain. So this is what the rights that the child has, to teach them manners. From Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Luqman says, "O my child, if you are disciplined during your childhood, you will enjoy it when you grow up, if you're disciplined. He who cares about manners pays importance to it, and he who pays importance to it will strive for his knowledge. And he who strives for his knowledge will intense his seeking, and he who seeks, he who is seeking is intense will gain its advantages." So we're looking in these hadith to talk about teaching your children how to live, teaching them discipline, teaching them how to live life. And if they are not disciplined, if you do not teach them manners, and you just let them off and do whatever they want, then they will not be able to seek knowledge. Then they will not be able to have tarbiyat, inshallah, And we see from Imam Ali, it is the duty of the leader to teach the boundaries of Islam, the hudud of Islam and his faith, to the people under his command. So even for leaders, we have hadith about teaching. In the most obligatory things in teaching, Al-Kafi narrated from Sulaiman ibn Khalid, I asked Abu Abdullah, I have some family members who follow my words. Do I invite them to this affair, being follower of Ahlul Bayt, being Shia? He says, yes, verily Allah has said in his book, O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is men and stone. Teaching them the wajibat, teaching them beliefs, teaching them about prophethood, tawheed, the hereafter, imamat, divine justice. So inshallah we can be of those that fulfill our rights as parents, fulfill our rights as children. His Hussain Salawat ala Muhammad, ala